She's also on the short list. Unlike Kamala Harris, Karen Bass is not a fraud. Karen Bass means it. She's sincere. She's an unapologetic left-wing bomb thrower who spent decades working to help Fidel Castro in his Cold War against the United States. Karen Bass kept praising Fidel Castro all the way to his death just 4 years ago. In the 1970s, Karen Bass belonged to a group that the LA Police Department accused of training revolutionaries in, quote, terrorist tactics and guerrilla warfare. Bass apparently visited Cuba multiple times a year. So it's not pejorative to note that Karen Bass is not a mainstream figure. She literally co-sponsored the New Way Forward Act. That is a lunatic bill that would force the U.S. government to re-import, at taxpayer expense, hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens whom we've deported for committing crimes. Bring them back here, in many cases violent crimes, for real. Karen Bass is so extreme that, like Kamala Harris, by the way, she's currently trying to repeal California's main anti-discrimination law. Bass wants to make racial discrimination legal as it was before the Civil Rights Movement. We're not overstating this. Karen Bass has issued press releases bragging about it. You may not have heard about any of this. The details are so shocking that virtually no media outlet bothers to cover them. But it is all real. Look it up before it's scrubbed. Keep in mind, this is the person, these are the people who could soon be running our country. Pedro Gonzalez writes for the Journal of American Greatness. We're happy to have him for the first time on the show tonight. Pedro, thanks so much for coming on. So here you have two potential VP picks, both of whom have explicitly endorsed eliminating the biggest state's anti-discrimination law. It's hard to believe that's true. It is true. What should we conclude from it?
That both of these people are willing to use ethnopolitics as a vehicle for political power. I think you framed it very well that Harris is, she doesn't mean it. She pays lip service to progressive pieties, but at the end of the day, she's not really, she doesn't mean any of the things that she says. Bass, on the other hand, is a total ideologue. She really believes in the things that she's saying, and I think what makes her so dangerous is that she has a good way, or she has a talent for taking radical ideas and making them appear moderate. But at the end of the day, both of these candidates are going in the same direction, and that is a very bad place for America, because both of them have no problem with essentially portraying white people as the group that needs to be disadvantaged for other groups in this country to succeed. That is insane. You're talking about saying that all the problems in this country for all of these different groups are the fault of this one group, and in order to address these wrongdoings, this history of American sin, we need to repeal anti-discrimination laws. That's insane.
It's also, it is insane, it's immoral, but it's also the single most divisive way that you could govern a country. I can't think of a way that would divide a country more deeply and more permanently. Can you?
Right. No, and for Bass, it's not surprising. Like you said, a lot of this stuff is not public knowledge, but Bass is a divisive character. She has been since the beginning of her political career. Later this month, she's going to be attending the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations alongside Senator Cory Booker. And this is a conference where, since the 70s, I think, they've been basically pushing for reparations. And last year, a key speaker was Louis Farrakhan, and it was backed and funded by the Nation of Islam. This is a black nationalist organization with a history of violence. And Karen Bass will be attending this year, later this month. I think it's from July 1st to August 1st. And this person is being considered for VP. So if you want divisive, she's as divisive as it gets. But again, she's very good at concealing these views and sort of playing them down.
I'm pretty hard to shock. You just shocked me. I wasn't aware of that. I read the news all day. Why is none of this covered? These seem like relevant facts.
It's not covered because it doesn't fit the narrative. The Republicans are bad. Conservatives are bad. White people are bad. The Democratic Party is going to save America from Trump, from his supporters, from the ideas that his supporters hold dear. You don't hear it because most of the people in the media are sympathetic to people like Karen Bass, and they're sympathetic to people like Harris, even though I think most of them realize that she's deeply cynical.
Yes. Deeply cynical is exactly the phrase I would use. I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult in this context. But Pedro Gonzalez, I'm really glad we had you on tonight. Thanks for coming. I hope you'll come back.